Welcome to EI Cafe with Azim, in which he reflects on key aspects of life and business through the lens of emotional intelligence. You will learn how emotional intelligence can be used for your success in both personal and professional lives. The podcasts cover topics on leadership, collaboration, culture, building a positive mindset, and even raising kids. You will hear key life lessons and tips from the most prominent personalities, business leaders, entrepreneurs, EI practitioners, and executive coaches from around the world. So sit back, relax with a cup of coffee as we get into today's show, EI Cafe with Azim.
Strategies are vital to organizations as they provide a clear roadmap for achieving goals and navigating challenges. Effective strategies align with a lot of problems, challenges, and organization looks for transformation. On that note, how do you go through this transformation? Through meeting challenges. Greetings to you from Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is EI Cafe with Azim and Season 11, and I'm your host Azim Sahir, a human capital specialist, a Lego Serious Play facilitator, ICF certified PCC level coach, and emotional intelligence, emotional culture deck practitioner. I'm one of the lead facilitators at the Luminary Learning Solution. This weekly show helps you to explore the impact of emotional intelligence on our lives through engaging conversation with industry leaders, innovators, executive coaches, thought leaders, and we aim to inspire and empower you. Transforming organization challenges with human-centered strategies is such as design thinking involves empathizing with employees to understand their needs and pain points. Design thinking encourages iterative problem solving, fostering innovation and engagement. By focusing on user-centric solutions, organization can effectively address resistance to change, improve communication, enhance overall productivity. Not at all, and it's bring a lot of innovation. Joining us in as an exceptional guest, I have Vaughan Broderick. He's on a mission to help leaders and teams to avoid the frustration of typical innovation, reduce risk, and make more collaborative progress. I think that's something really talk of the town these days. With decades in business, he has built his consulting firm, helping 2,000 plus clients with $500 million plus of lifestyle and financial assets, specialize in helping entrepreneurs, leaders, and team to accelerate innovation and building winning business. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Vaughn Broderick, the design thinking coach. Vaughn, welcome to the cafe.
Thank you very much, Azim. My pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity to have a chat with you and your audience.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time in the cafe. As I mentioned before this whole we started, I've been truly inspired the content you share in terms of design thinking, in terms of innovation, in terms of many aspects. So that led me to bring you into the podcast. And design thinking is one of my favorite areas as part of a facilitator as well. But before that, let's go to the organization context. What sort of we are talking about lot of turbulence, people build strategies. We are talking about a lot of transformation organizations trying to do to be relevant in the market. On the note, with your experience, what are some common challenges organizations face today's environment? And what are some of the factors for those challenges to exist? Let's start with that.
Right. Yeah, look, great question. And you certainly hit things on the nail there as far as, that's a pretty significant challenge that I'm seeing. So, we're talking about, the fast pace of change, but also the complexity of change that's happening. And from my experience and that of the people that I help, it's happening at an ever increasing rate. There's just so much change happening, and we can think back to to COVID, and then we've just had Chat GPT come about, and there's just a never-ending, constant sort of disruption that's happening out there. Let alone any sort of other disruptions that are kind of happening actually in the particular sector, such as regulation changes or mergers. And all that sort of thing. And then we've also got societal change, right? So different expectations of both staff and consumers. And so, a big question there is, well, how do organizations remain relevant and meet those demands? And I think what I've found and many of the clients that I've helped is we need to take a bit of a step back and realize that we don't have all the answers. And it's impossible to do that in what is truly complex environments, because they're constantly changing, and they're just too complex to be able to have sort of cause and effects directly all the time. Okay. And so I think what we try and do is, first and foremost, as leaders, it's really important to try and make space to think. But that also needs to flow down to our teams. And how we do that, when we're trying to deliver our strategy, when we're trying to remain competitive and deliver for customers, the focus really can be, we need to stay in that operational mode. And that's really the challenge that we've got, is there's two spaces that we need to operate as organizations. One is the optimization piece of getting really good at delivering what we deliver, so that we can become more and more effective, but also more efficient, and make sure that we're producing for the bottom line, or the impact that we're trying to make. At the same time, we also need to explore, and that's a totally different skill set. It's a totally different mindset, and that's really where design thinking comes in. And effective organizations of the future that I believe are going to be able to future-proof themselves, are the ones that can operate in both of these modes harmoniously. And I think it's the harmonious piece that is the real challenge at the moment, because they are two different skill sets, mindsets, as I mentioned, and ultimately it comes down to the culture of the organization.
So what I'm hearing you saying is, yes, the current context, the speed of change the whole world is experiencing, especially the corporate context with the innovation, that's making people to catch up that speed. And for that speed, people are trying to do a lot of transformation within the organization. So they stay relevant in the market. So that gets adapted to the strategy. I do agree everything what you said, but one of the question I have is, when the leaders starting to do in terms of a transformation, there are a lot of challenges comes in. There are problems, pops like a popcorn. People resist, and people don't understand that what organization try to make. Now, on that context, are the leaders focusing on a human-centered approach? Forget about internal stuff. Let's talk about our customers. Are we developing strategies based on a human-centered design approach to all this problem, or we are just looking at, as you mentioned, an operation? What do you think?
I would say that most organizations, unfortunately, are not thinking enough about their customers. What tends to happen is that we might ask our internal sales team, because we expect that they know what customers are needing, what customers are thinking, and to some degree they do. So it's never a clear-cut black and white that there are no insights to be found. Certainly there are insights to be found within an organization. It could be within call centers, the sales team, etc. However, we can never get as deep insights without understanding the customer's world, understanding their pains, understanding what their day is like, the whole context. And the more that we can understand that, then that opens the opportunity for new potential value to be able to deliver to the customer. And really we need to go out and explore and fully understand that customer's world. And I do want to stress, it's more than just the customer's daily life, if you like, or their needs. You need to fully understand their complete context that they're operating in. And without that, then it's very difficult to be able to implement effective solutions, because we need to understand their struggling moments. We need to understand the other demands that are on them in their world. And so that's really important. And for us to be able to implement those solutions, as saying, the more we understand about the complexity of the customer's world, then the easier it is.
So what I'm just want to pause you there, is understand the customer. If I may ask you, what stops the organization or leaders to really understand the customer? What do you think?
I think that, there is a couple of key things. And so it comes back to that ability to create space. So if our orientation as a leader, as an organization, is that we don't value making space for the activities to go and understand our customers, then it'll never happen for a start. And so it comes around to an orientation, a worldview of the leader to put a stake in the ground and say, no, this is the right way to view the world from our customer's lens, from our customer's viewpoint, not our own internal. And so it's a value system. It's a way that the leader needs to view the world as important. And so there's lots of things mixed up in that. Sometimes it's historical, expertise. This is way we've always done things, and so why do we need to change?
Sort of fixed mindset.
Yeah, that fixed mindset. It's often an ego as well, because a lot of time leaders are put in there because they get things done. And sometimes getting things done, the perception is that the leader needs to know. But in this world, you cannot know.
Yeah.
You may have hunches, you may have some insights, but really it's the customer that, while the customer may not know what they need, where you will find the insights, and often better and richer insights from the customer.
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. I love the fact that you being a leader doesn't mean that you need to know everything. That's where the problems comes in when you go with that mindset. And understanding the customer and understanding the people who are around you is so vital to do the transformation, because it is centered around them. So on that note, I would like to bring the concept, your favorite area, is of design thinking. We say design thinking as a human-centered approach to problem solving. Now, how leaders can really embrace this particular methodology. And I know you have a tool called Duck Tree on design thinking model. I've just gone through it. It looks like a very fantastic model. Do you think how this can be applied in an organization? Is it can apply to every organization, or is it in its particular segment? I'd like to hear from you.
I believe that design thinking can be applied in all sectors. And it just comes down to applying the right tool for the right situation. So I mentioned before around cause and effect. So look, if a problem is not a complex problem, then there's other tools for that, yeah? But if we're talking about complex, where there's a lot of unknown unknowns, then it's likely that design thinking is a very good tool for that. And specifically with the Duck Tree model, look, there's lots of design thinking models. However, the professor who's a friend and colleague who developed this out, Dr. Christian Walsh, I think what's unique with that is it really encapsulates the core fundamentals of everything that you'll need, including desirability, feasibility, viability. But it also focuses around the implementing piece, which is often missed with some of the other models. And so it really captures, okay, how do we really discover what customers need, really understand that? Then how might we go about creating and testing these ideas? But then how do we resource them and actually bring them into life, into the real world? And so I think fundamentally what I'd like to raise here is I think there's 4 key mindsets that really we need to shift. And you touched on one before, which was growth mindset. So we like to phrase it as optimistic growth mindset. So, you know, it's a real positive belief that we can and we will solve complex problems. So we need that inside us because it's going to be hard to be able to make change. The second thing is, and actually the primary principle in mindset is people centricity. So we have an ultimate belief that here in New Zealand, I tangata, I tangata, I tangata, which is the Maori phrase for the people, the people, the people. So fundamentally, you know, we believe that innovation, there is really no innovation, and there's no point to innovation if it doesn't positively impact the lives of people. And the third one is experimental. So we need to be creative. We need to be testing ideas and not holding on to our ideas and just stopping at the first solution that comes to mind. It's about learning as we go, as emergent information comes through, and the feedback directly with the market or the people involved in the problem space. And lastly is diverse collaboration. So this is really around a belief that more diverse perspectives are important. So expertise is important, particularly in certain domains. However, that doesn't exclude having other perspectives, such as, you know, as an example, in a typical kind of corporate scenario, we would have representatives from different divisions. So it could be operations, could be sales, could be marketing. Then we'll have someone from leadership, but then actually even have a customer involved, actually in that sort of the whole discussion right from the beginning. And if we're talking about the does it apply everywhere? If we have time, I'd love to just share with you a project that we worked on. So would that work?
Absolutely, it'll be a good example.
Right. So look, here's an example, and this was actually the first time that I used the ductory model. Okay, so I'm sort of saying there is benefit, and everybody can do it if they take the right approaches. Yep. And so this was the first time I used it. This was for a consulting project for my MBA. Okay, and so it was with a group of social services organizations, and so in that setting, so they're looking after vulnerable young people, and who often have complex needs, intellectual challenges, physical challenges, that sort of thing. And so the ask of the organizations were, and particularly the lead organization, was to create a life storybook. So that was effectively digitize a hard copy version of what the young person might carry with them throughout care, in terms of, hey, this is what I love. Here's my habits, or my awards, my family, where I grew up, all that sort of thing about their life. Problem is, the sector is very resource constrained, and so it's challenging to deliver such a thing, even though it's the right of a young person to have that. And so even though it's in legislation, in order to enact that, it was impossible, or very, very challenging. And so it just never happened. It's too hard, too challenging for the staff on the ground to do that. Now, what we did was we used design thinking. And what we found was it was nothing to do about digitizing. What it was about was creating a more trusting connection. So the deep problem was we needed a way to build trust and connection between the young person and their support workers. And so we went through the design thinking process. We tested various versions of how we might enable this, and wrapped a whole lot of support and changed leadership around that in order to implement things. And in the end, after a couple of beta trials, we were able to get to the point of this was successful. People were wanting it, and it was helping. We saw evidence that this was helping. And so it was signed off by the board for funding to be able to build
Nice.
this. Now, where I'm getting to with this, and I know that was a bit of a long intro, but where I'm getting to with this is that was in 2021. We're now in 2024, and the organization has taken design thinking and embedded it in their organization. So this is an extremely resource constrained organization, but they've had the mindsets and been able to deliver substantial change to the services all through design thinking, that it's now a core part of what they do and how they develop their business.
So what I'm hearing, one, like we went to the problem thinking that the digitalization is the solution. But when you start using the model and trying to find the actual root cause is the connectivity.
Absolutely.
So what I'm hearing is we can use this methodology to really identify the actual root cause, because it is centered around the user or centered around the human element. So we get better clarity of the problem what we are going to solve. Am I correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you've hit on what many organizations will skim over. And we'll come up with an idea, and then we start to test that idea, as opposed to what is the right solution, what is the real problem for a start, in order to then generate options about how we might solve that that correct problem.
So
yeah, research is really important.
Absolutely. I generally use the Stanford model of DT. So there is something called empathy in the middle. How does that connect with problem solving?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, we think that it's fundamental. You know, building empathy for the users, for the people in the center of the problem is critical. You know, however, it can also come with a bit of arrogance. You know, and we need to be careful that okay, we've done a couple of interviews. We know what their world is like. The reality is we don't really. But if we come at it with a viewpoint, because what we have is, instead of sort of we have this concept around compassionate conversations, as opposed to interviews, in order to build empathy, that sort of thing. So our viewpoint is, we're there discovering, we're there listening. 90% is about listening and going on the journey to hear the stories, to hear the insights of their worldview, so that it's about taking action. The compassion piece is, we want to help them, instead of, it's pure empathy of, okay, I feel you. It's more about we're going to take action. Yeah.
Brilliant. I think it's an important context, right? Because when we start hearing from the user what exactly you're going through, I think when you hear the users, it's easy to really find the next mechanism, the system, the processes. Because what generally organization does is, they look at from the top layer, from the skim or for the surface of it, and try to really understand, okay, this is the problem. And they start implementing, but they come and say, look, we try to do it, it's not working. But the reason is they have not really understood the user, and user rejected, it's not working. And that's why I think most of the system implementation fails, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, you're exactly right. And it comes back to, the more we understand about that context when we're doing the discovery, the more we can apply it later on in terms of behavior change and structural change within the organizations to be able to implement.
Yeah. So what I love that particular part is, as you said, it goes through the whole process, right? It's not only just identifying, it's not only brainstorming, it's not ideating. It's about getting into prototyping in that room and get the feedback from the user and go up and down, up and down, up and down. And I remember you have posted one on design thinking and a small comic sort of an image. Then I think I did comment that the last image says, still we don't have results. The boss is saying we don't have results. I think I think it's correct. Like, human behavior does not change overnight. So it takes time to generate results, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if I come back to that project I mentioned, it took us a couple of pilots to be able to really learn even more about how do we implement this so that the organization, the staff who are dealing day to day will adopt and change their habits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in between, even though it's going successful, I think it's good to always go back and check what are the improvements we can make, what are things which might be relevant. Because 3 months we identify something, then look at ChatGPT, right? We talk about 3.0, 4.0. Now we are talking about different, and that's 6 months. So it's always good to get it in. And I just want to ask one more thing. Just this could be a good a takeaway for our listeners who might be leaders or might be the organization members. How can organization really use this approach to create better solution to meet the needs of their needs and requirement of their customers? What would be one or two tips you would like to share?
That's again, I think the first and foremost is we need to look at ourselves and make a decision about who are we, why are we here, and what is our orientation. If we have a fundamental belief that we're here for the customer, we're here for the people, and innovation needs to impact people, then it makes total sense that we should engage with the people who are in the system, and that can be customers, that can be staff, other stakeholders, etc. So fundamentally, it's that cultural shift. And so first and foremost, I would take a look at ourselves, a good hard look at ourselves, and say, is that us? And then secondly, I think it's about getting small wins and building confidence, because it can seem overwhelming to some degree, and when you're first using it. But I would take a small project that is significant, is important, but it's not going to be critical, and I would just start, and I would get some champions alongside and just work through that and make it totally visible. So you're sharing how you're going, sharing the journey, and other people will be curious, and collectively, as you build momentum and success, I think that's the best way. Start small and grow from there.
Brilliant. There are two aspects to look out. I think culture plays a vital role in terms of this particular process, because from top to bottom, need to embrace this particular process and get involved with it. So, Juan, thank you very much for sharing that. And I do have a little bit of surprise for you. We are going to go for a rapid fire round. I didn't tell it right. So I want just quick answers for this. I have just 4 questions for you. Giving a little bit of a stuff and see how you survive my rapid fire round. Let's get started.
Okay.
Right. So, question number 1, Vaughn. What made you get into design thinking?
I had a midlife crisis. I traveled the world and then did my MBA, and I found design thinking on my MBA.
Right. Question number 2. Have you ever failed, Vaughn? And if yes, how?
I fail every day.
You fail every day. That's nice.
It's a great way to learn.
Absolutely. So, question number 3. In one word, for you, what is design thinking?
Design thinking for me is a belief that we can make a better world.
Absolutely brilliant. And last one, what is one tool you highly recommend for a newbie getting into design thinking?
Oh, well, look, it's got to be the duck tree model.
There you go. Absolutely. So, Vaughn, thank you very much. I think it not be so difficult for you because it's your own area of it. And I always had the curiosity in your LinkedIn profile. I see a duck and a tree. Now I know what this duck and tree is about. It's so, ladies and gentlemen, that's the time what we have today. That's a wrap of our discussion on the importance of strategies to organization and their impact. A big thank you for our guest, Vaughn Broderick, a design thinking coach, for sharing such valuable insight and experiences. It's clear that strategies are such an important context, but without an empathetic experience, it's clear that leadership has a vital role to play with that, because leadership are key drivers to success in today's business concept. So if you want to get connected to Vaughn Broderick, the design thinking coach, of course, you can log on to his website, vaughnbroderick.com. All the links will be available on the podcast note. He has some fantastic articles, resources, and a couple of other podcasts he has been. And at the same time, you can explore the free resources. Of course, Duck Tree is there, so get assigned. And he has his own, if I'm correct, weekly newsletter, Vaughn. It's a weekly newsletter you can assign. And of course, LinkedIn, very humble guy who share huge amount of content and learning to us. So you can get good. So Vaughn, thank you very much for your valuable time. It has been absolutely inspiring and listening to you how the whole process of design thinking and human-centered approach of problem solving has been. Thank you very much.
Azim, big thank you to you and your audience. Look, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of EI Cafe with Azim. Hope you enjoyed this conversation with Vaughan Broderick on transforming organizational challenges with human-centered strategies and how design thinking can be a great tool. Of course, you can check out similar topics in episode 102, Human-Centered Leadership, Unveil and the Strength in Vulnerability with Kulmahe. And of course, episode number 76, Innovation Culture, Is It an Investment, with Mohammed Al-Tajer. And episode 34, Developing a Creative Leadership Culture with One Lai Tumuno. I hope these conversations helps you in your professional as well as personal life. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends and connection whom can benefit from such conversations. Until next time, stay inspired and keep striving for excellence. This is EI Cafe with Azim, and checking out from the cafe, my name is Azim Sahir.
Thank you for joining yet another successful episode of EI Cafe with Azim. We appreciate your time and invite you to subscribe to the show so that you don't miss out on the next episode. Write a review and even rate it if you please. You can also follow Azim Sahir on social media. We would also love to hear from you on what topics you'd like us to cover and even who you'd like us to invite to the show. We wish you well until we meet again on another episode of EI Cafe with Azim.